Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm making a Call of Duty Zombies theme cake. I've already baked the layers. I'm doing 4 layers, 2 chocolate, 2 vanilla, and I'm just basically going to be showing you guys how to decorate the cake, how to layer it. I've just baked the cakes, but I haven't actually done the layering yet, so I'm going to show you guys how to layer it. I'm doing a strawberry flavored icing filling with a strawberry goo or jam with it as well. You guys, obviously you can change out the details of like the cake flavor and everything, but this will show you how to make a Call of Duty Zombies cake. Now first off with this, I did not make my own frosting. I used store-bought frosting, and I actually ended up getting 2 different brands, one from Aldi's and the other is Pillsbury. Personally, I think the Pillsbury is better, so if you're not going to make your own, I would recommend Pillsbury brand. It's a thicker frosting. So I put 2 of these in here together, and right now I'm just mixing them together. And what we're doing for this batch, you see it's really loose and runny. What we're doing with this is we want to make this a thicker frosting, so I'm just adding powdered sugar. Make sure that you sift the powdered sugar going in, that way it reduces the amount of lumping that you're going to have. You don't want any lumps of sugar or anything like that. It's just going to mess up with your consistency. I'm just using a spoon to go ahead and get all those lumps through. And just go ahead and mix this. There is no, I didn't measure anything. I just really just kept adding sugar until it got to a thickness that I liked. So you can just do the same. About there where it kind of sticks to the whisk is where you want it. From this point, what we're going to do is you're going to put this into a piping bag. You fold it over like that just to protect your hand, and that way it doesn't get all over the place. You're just going to fill it up with basically as much as you can, and then there's a tiny hole at the end of it, but when we use it we're gonna actually snip about 1.5 inches. For this part I used 1 vanilla and 1 strawberry. I just wasn't sure. I've never had the strawberry before, so I wasn't sure if I would like the flavor of it, so that's why I did 1 of each. And then on top of that I got strawberry flavoring that I could add into it, and that gave me a level of control to how much strawberry was going to be added into it or not. And so I'm just taking this out of here and then mixing them together. I do have some toothpicks on hand that I use to taste test it. Obviously, if you're cooking this for somebody else, you want to be sanitary. If you're just cooking it for yourself, go ahead, just stick your fingers in there. So here what I'm showing is the color. I actually wanted it more of a reddish pink, so I have food coloring as well. Make sure that if you're using food coloring with this, I try to always use gels. It just messes with your consistency of whatever food products you're using a little less. This is Wilton brand. Something to know also, what I'm using is the Christmas red. Now if you're going out and you're buying a red food coloring, please make sure that you get the one that says no taste. I had actually used that one up already, and so this is the first one that I bought. With this one, if you use too much of it, it will affect the flavor of your icing and it becomes like this kind of nasty aftertaste. It's something you definitely want to avoid, so you try not to add too much. So I just added a little bit. You couldn't really tell because it was in a red bowl, so but it is a little bit of a darker red. This is the flavoring. I just added about 1/4 teaspoon. The label says it's stronger than extract, so I didn't want to add too much, and then that's the taste that I like, so I went with it. Now for layering the cakes, you're going to put a little bit of icing on your base, and then that just holds your cake in place. So now we've taken out our piping bag from the fridge, and so you're just going to go around the border. What this is really doing is since it's a thicker frosting, it's going to essentially hold your cake up together, because this is a huge cake, so there's a lot of layers to it and there's a lot of weight. The fondant also adds a lot of weight to it, so we need something that's going to be well structured. Otherwise your cake might collapse a little bit underneath the weight of it all, and your fondant won't look good, and it'll just be a huge thing. Another thing to think about is when you're choosing what cake to make sure you choose a cake that has a good amount of density. Something that, not like an angel food cake. And then this is a strawberry goo that I used, and I just piled that on top of the frosting. Now to make the strawberry goo, all I did really was just I cut up some strawberries, didn't measure them, and I just sprinkled some sugar and then mashed them up with a spoon or a fork. It's really simple. And so basically with this, you're just going to go through and keep layering them, just the same pattern over and over again. The border of the thick frosting, and then inside with the strawberry frosting, and then pile on some strawberries. You're just going to keep doing this over and over again until you get to the very top. Now once you get to the top layer, I'm just basically using up the white frosting that's left in the bag. The leftover white frosting, since it's stronger, we're going to put that on for the crumb coat. If you're not familiar with cake making, crumb coat is basically the layer of frosting that goes directly on the cake. It locks in the crumbs. It's exactly what it sounds like. And this is just going to make sure that when you are decorating your cake, you don't have any crumbs coming out in your icing that can ruin the look of it. Now with this being covered in, that's my husband. Now with this being covered in fondant, you don't really have to worry about the layers so much coming through, because the fondant's going to basically be like a protective case that kind of covers up everything. The only thing we have is that if you don't have a smooth layer of frosting underneath it, sometimes it will come through depending on the thickness of your fondant. The fondant hides quite a bit of your mistakes, but it won't hide absolutely everything. Like if you had like a hole or something in your cake for whatever reason, it wouldn't hide it completely. So once you have the crumb coat on, you're actually going to put that in the fridge. I had it in there for 10 minutes, but you should honestly probably have it in there for half an hour. And then after that, go ahead and put the rest of the strawberry or whatever icing you have left, honestly, on the cake. Like I said with this, the fondant will show what you have underneath a bit. And what I chose to do, because this is a mystery box from Call of Duty, it's basically a wooden box if you're unaware, although if you were unaware, you probably wouldn't be watching this. So I went ahead and put some horizontal grooves into it to make it look kind of like the boards of wood. Now, honestly, once I put the fondant on, you couldn't really tell this at all. So it kind of ended up being a waste of time, but you could try it. You never know. What I'm doing here is I'm covering it with saran wrap. And what we're doing now is we're going to compress the cake by putting something heavy on top of it. I'm going to use a cookbook. You can use a couple smaller books or just something that you have, not something obnoxiously heavy like 50 pounds, but anywhere between like 5 and 10 pounds or so. What this is doing is this is going to compress the cake. That way when you put that heavy fondant on, it's not going to change the height of your cake once it's on there. We're going to leave this in the fridge. You want to leave it in there for a couple hours. Now, while that's in the fridge, you can get started with your fondant. You want to make sure that you're doing this on a smooth surface. You don't want anything porous. Obviously, it's going to create impressions on your fondant. Now for this, we need gray to do the buckles on the box. So I'm just mixing some black and white. You can buy fondant already colored. I don't think they have gray, maybe online, because everything online. But I'm just mixing a bit of white with the black, and then easy peasy. What I'm spreading on the counter there is cornstarch. You want to use cornstarch instead of powdered sugar because it's not going to affect your flavor. And it's also very fine, so it's not going to affect the consistency or the texture of it. With the white one, you're just going to knead it out like so, and then when you roll it, you're going to do one roll one way, turn it 90 degrees, roll again, turn it 90 degrees, turn it again, the same process over and over again. And then once it gets big enough that it's kind of hard to pick up with your hands, then you're going to use the rolling pin to turn it. You can just fold it over on the rolling pin like so and flip it that way. Now sadly, I ended up losing the footage of me putting the fondant on the cake, but you're basically going to just put it over your rolling pin and just layer over the cake. It sounds a lot more scary than it actually is, but it's not that bad. You just kind of, you know, carry it over, put it there. I'm gonna put a link in the description of what video I watched to learn how to do this. I just watched one video on YouTube and then figured it out. It's not as hard as it looks. Now with this, what I'm doing is I took off some of the excess from when I put the fondant on, and I'm cutting out question marks. And you can, if you have a stencil, feel free to use it. I just freehanded it. They weren't the same exact size, but honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. Don't overthink this. Now to color them, what I'm using there is vodka. I use strawberry vodka, but the flavor didn't really come through at all. The reason you use vodka instead of water, we're mixing this with the food gel coloring to paint onto it. The reason you use an alcohol is that the alcohol itself is going to evaporate off of the cake a bit, while if you used water is just going to make your fondant gooey and nasty, and it's not a good idea. One thing also, before you start actual painting onto your fondant, I have a paper towel in the corner there that I've tested the colors on, and you're going to do that with all three colors. I have black, brown, and yellow, and right now I'm using the brown that I decided that I wanted it to be. You can make it darker if you want, but go ahead and use short strokes when you're painting it, and that's just going to make it look kind of more, it's going to give it more texture if you're trying to make it look like wood. And then for the sides, you just go around and do the same exact thing. Now in the corner here, you can see that the fondant is a little cracked. Now if you were trying to make a perfect looking cake, that would be a big problem, but since this is a zombies Call of Duty cake, I painted them black, and you just kind of spread out the edges a little bit and make them look like bullet holes. Now the black and the yellow is just to add a little bit of depth and character to the box. Obviously it's not a perfect box, it's a zombies game, so you don't want it to look perfect. Now we are going to go ahead and cut out the buckles and the straps. I just used a little paring knife that I had. If you have an X-Acto knife, you can do that as well. You're going to cut this into 3 strips and go ahead and point the ends for those 3. And then to create the buckle, you're just going to simply take a square that's the same width as the straps and just cut a square out of the middle like that. And then use a little water to glue it onto that. Remember how I said the water makes it sticky? That's what we use as glue. And then we have one random square that we use. It's going to be a base metal piece on the front of the box. And then just use a little cup of water, use your water as glue, and just stick them on. Now the mystery boxes can all look a little different. The one that I was looking at as a reference had this front square on the left side, so that's where I chose to put mine. It had a couple bolts in it as well, so what I did for that, instead of using more fondant, I just took the black and I just made a little circle like so, and then I just carved out the edge with my knife just to give it a little more depth. And that's the last step. That's how you make a Call of Duty Zombies mystery box cake. It's not as hard as it looks. It does take a while, but it's really fun, and it'll guaranteed impress your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments. If you make the cake, let me know. I want to see how it turned out. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.